Miriam, we're back. In order to heal, you have to feel. But not everybody's trying to feel, Miriam.
That's your money's worth. That was a $5 bill.
God bless you. Miriam, we're doing some things. Things that don't serve us. Well, guess what? Now it's time to realize that they don't deserve us. Toya on the move. She says, can you bring spirits back after you tell it to leave?
He says, I'm not going anywhere because everything you just said is
out here. I can't be doing that at the bar, Dante.
I really love my bell.
Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. You're tuned in to Be Inspired. And today we're going to be talking about trust. What does trust mean to you? You know, they say that you know the truth by the way that it feels. Well, how does trusting yourself feel? I feel oftentimes we have so many distractions in life, whether it's people, things we put in ourselves, or perhaps even the environments that we place ourselves in that allows our antennas, our intuition, our trust antennas to go awry. We don't know what's what. Half the time, we don't even know if we're coming or going. But what do we know? We know that there's confidence in knowing, and we know that you can be confident in what you trust. Half the time when we're engaging with relationships, we rely on so many other people to tell us who we are, how we feel, and how we should behave. But when was the last time that you sought yourself within to figure out who you are, but more importantly, who you want to be? There's a quote that I love, and it says, your location is not your destination. Where you are right now doesn't define where you are going to be. However, you have to trust yourself in the process. They say the journey is the experience, and the experience is the journey. Are you ready to trust your journey?
All right. Close your eyes. 3 deep releasing breaths. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale, blow it out. And as you do this deep breath, let the body relax. Let everything go for just a few seconds. And I want you to think about the word trust. And then I want you to think about if it's possible for you to believe that we shouldn't be putting our trust in anyone or anything. We should be putting our trust solely in ourselves. So we don't trust our spouse. We don't trust our job. We don't trust our friends. We trust them to be exactly who they are. You trust you to follow your intuition and to no longer be surprised by certain behaviors. You trust yourself to know when it's time to leave. You trust yourself when you know when it's time to stay. You trust yourself to make choices that are best for your life. Because when we make decisions based off of trust, those decisions will inevitably be best for all parties involved. So just sit for a moment, breathe a little deeper, feel the breath move through you, and then ask yourself, do I really trust who I am?
Wow, Miriam. You got me there. I'm taking my breaths as you were speaking, and one of the first things I thought about is that when engaging with another individual, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. But oftentimes we aren't trusting what we see. Why is that? Just something to talk about. Are you excited?
I am very excited. I was so excited that I pulled some cards for us.
Okay, wait, while you're getting that together, we got to get the good folk to tell us where they're tuning in from.
I'm sorry, I got too excited.
It's roll call. I see Toya on the Move is here.
Roll
I see
call.
Skeleton Crew Paranormal is here. Who else is here?
Dude, when you say roll call, you're giving me flashbacks of a very unhappy school. I'm sorry, a school year. Sorry, I was reading and talking. Hi, Toya. Hi, Skeleton Crew.
So, hey, what part of California? Skeleton Crew?
I love that you have everyone calling me Miss Miriam now.
Wait, do I introduce you as Miss Miriam?
It was you, or maybe Toya started it, actually.
I
Maybe
think Toya, because I usually I address all my listeners by, Miss Toya or Miss Leslie, and they be like, "Hey, Miss Dawn," and I'll be like, "Hey."
yeah, I think Toya started it. Oh, she's taking
Toya said me. Oh, well, it's good to be with you, beautiful people, today. We're talking about trust.
So, when I first learned that trust wasn't about the other person, that it was about myself, that it was about trusting me, trusting my choices, trusting that I know when to leave, trusting that I know when to stay, trusting that I know when to believe what someone is saying or not saying. That's when things start to change, right? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I've mastered it. I'm just saying that's when things start to change for ourselves. Like, one of the things I talk about a lot is how, especially when I do, when I used to go live on TikTok a lot, every other question was about relationship, right? And so something I talked about a lot was that, listen, I don't trust my husband. I trust myself to know if I'm where I'm supposed to be. So we've been together 20 years, going on 21 years. And every few years or few months, whatever is going on, we check in. I check in, to be fair. And you have that conversation, or you pull that conversation out of them and you're like, where are we at? Are we good? And so I trust myself to know when it's time to have that conversation. And I trust whatever he says, not because he's my husband of 20 years, but because whatever he's saying, I feel what I'm feeling. And I try to feel an intuitive aspect of that. And I say try because it's always going to be harder to trust your intuition in deep relationships. That's always going to be harder.
But I love what you said, that you said trust your feeling, because we commonly hear that the truth by the way that it feels. If something doesn't feel right, it ain't right. Point blank, period. And it's only when we want to get in the way and try to convince or try to persuade otherwise. Now, I do think there are times when we can allow our insecurities to kind of clog our intuition. But just like how Toya said, you have to follow your gut. And oftentimes, you hear a lot of people refer to the gut as the heart, because that's the first place that we feel. When we talk about we're brokenhearted, it's right there. When we're nervous or excited, you feel it in your stomach.
Absolutely.
Oh, child. I know Skeleton Crew Paranormal. Oh.
It's funny. I'm going to overshare for a moment, because Bruce, my husband, and I were having a conversation, and he looked at me and he was like, well, you're a psychic. Shouldn't you already know all of this? And I was like, well, that's an interesting point. And I said, I don't, it's harder for me to feel. I've been with you for 21 years. So there's a lot of stuff in between that, right? And it's very hard to be purely authentic, intuitive, like I could with someone I don't know. And I was like, that's a fair question. But I said, no, it's mixed up with emotions too, and plus that's just another way to, let's not talk about it. And I'm like, no, we're going to talk about it.
And then also too, I hear that, whether you be a psychic medium or a reader, that oftentimes it is harder to read yourself. Like, people can say, well, didn't you foresee this coming? It's like, well, I'm me. I'm not reading myself. I can't imagine what that would feel like if I had, well, you say we all have it, but me tapping really into it, and then you see your own future of your life. Oh my gosh.
I'm glad you said that, because that's part of why I teach balancing the emotional body. That's part of why I teach the 5 steps to consciousness, the exercise, the diet, the therapy, because what that does is it allows you, it opens you up so you can feel for your own life experience. So you can, and listen, when I say that, it doesn't come in like, it comes in very subtle waves. It doesn't just like all of a sudden, it just comes in subtle waves, like an example is knowing when it's time to have a conversation with my husband, when it's like, we need to talk, like we need to like reconnect, like are we okay?
Connect.
Are we not, and that's just me trusting my intuition, and sometimes he might be like, yeah, everything's fine. It's like, great. And sometimes it's like, no, we do need to talk.
I love the operative word of connect, because I think oftentimes we find so many ways to disconnect ourselves from others, but more importantly from ourselves. And like we've been talking about how meditation is important, what you're doing, what you're putting in your body, how you're spending your time, and of course, who you are spending your time with. And it's like, well, God, dog, you only got one body, one brain, one heart, all that kind of good stuff. This right here is the longest person that you're going to have a relationship with. Sticking with you no matter what. I don't care how far and how fast you run. You cannot run from yourself. So why wouldn't we take the time to learn ourselves? Perhaps we're scared, Miriam.
I think fear is a huge part, but I also think society has not given us a platform to do that.
Well,
right?
What do you mean by that?
Society has said that to be a successful individual, you should go to college, get a job, have a family, and buy a house and buy a car and retire. Like that's society's version of normal, right?
Well, if we can just talk about this here, when we talk about graduation rates, on top of that, people trying to pay for the student loans, then not getting a job after you graduate from college. The divorce rate is, I don't know how high. With inflation up, how many people are purchasing homes? They're saying you can make $75,000 and you're still considered low income. So I don't know.
Yeah. So if
not to mention what 401k, what retirement,
right. So imagine if we were all raised with meditation at a very young age, with empathy, compassion, and social skills being the priority, not building this brain so it learns how to shut up and listen, and then regurgitate back everything I said. What if instead you're taught compassion for animals, compassion for others. You're taught how to embrace the emotional body first. You're allowed to kind of, engage those natural skill sets you have, whether it's music or art or building or who knows what it is. Like, what if all of that came first? And second, because inevitably, if you're taught social skills, if you're allowed to grow emotionally, if you're allowed to have compassion, if you're allowed to bond and connect with others and with animals, and you're taught through example how to do that, and you're in meditation every morning and you're learning how to quiet this, inevitably relationships will be healthier. Inevitably, the desire to learn and grow and change and help others will be there. But we don't find those desires until we're forced into therapy or meditation or whatever that is. And then we're like, oh, I mean, that's what happened to me too. It's like, oh, I can be compassionate. Oh, what I'm doing is affecting someone else. And what I'm doing is affecting that relationship. And all these things we're finding out because either we're forced to, something traumatic happens, or you're just fed up with life. But what if that was taught at such a young age and that's all you really knew was that joy, if you will? And society would be very different. And we would create a platform for people to heal and to feel. When women are giving birth or having their periods, they won't be shoved back into a job 1 month, 6 months, 3 months later, or when we, nowadays, office places are, some, very few are acknowledging when a woman has her, cycle, to give her the week off. I've read that there are some businesses that are coming around to that, which you should, because when you have your cycles, when you're most sensitive, when you're most intuitive, when you feel the most. So
So then somebody would argue, like I could imagine a very misogynistic person be like, well, that's why women can't be leaders because they're too emotional about things. But if you think about it, you have to have a sense of empathy. You have to have a medium or a means of connecting rather to a person.
Well, if you're leading, what are you leading? You can only lead human beings. That's all we have on this planet, is that or animals. So if you're a leader, you're leading humans. And if you're leading humans, if you aren't leading from a place of compassion, which they don't, then we're leading from a place of monetary or fiscal, of this is my land, that's your land, it's not yours, it's mine, power struggle, power struggle, power struggle. But if you're leading from a place of compassion for what is best for everybody involved, that doesn't come from the brain. If I say to you, what's best for everyone, that comes from your gut. That comes from your intuition. That comes from you being able to make healthy choices for you. That's why I said earlier, if you are trusting and making healthy choices for you, it is inevitably what's best for everyone. I'm not saying the other person will go, oh my God, you're right. That feels amazing that you're breaking up with me. I'm saying that, after that person heals, they'll be like, yeah, that was the best thing for us. You were right. So yeah, let's just change the world real quick in this next hour and we'll be good.
Just explore and get in tune with yourself. But no, really, it's so important that we keep that at the forefront and realizing the times or when instances have happened when we had that disconnect of not trusting ourselves, of just allowing people to tell us what to do and how to do different things. Because the minute we start school, it's get in line.
Yes.
One person after the other, you must raise your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so interesting because do we need a sense of control or do we not?
Boundaries.
I don't know.
All of us, there's boundaries. There's like just your, don't run a red light. That's a boundary. Don't kill people. That's a boundary. Yes, boundaries are needed and important. But I wanted to, it was a taboo subject with my mom's religion. I'm thinking she's referring to. Are you
connecting to spirituality? Something that Skeleton Crew Paranormal had stated.
Yeah.
And Rosalind, we had a guest, Rosalind, last week. It was a childhood friend of mine who shared her story of finding out that she had ovarian cancer, and it was taboo against to do meditation, to do yoga. And as we know, those can be very spiritual practices, the way you are moving your body.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to bring up something from last week because there was two things that happened right before we went live. Dawn, you had said something. You had said, "Oh, I like your necklace," and you knew, even though we haven't been working together very long, you're like, "Oh yeah, you're not. You don't buy specific stones for you. That's just something that you think is pretty." And I was like, "Yeah." And then later on, I was talking about how if someone's setting rules around spirituality, run for the hills. And I wanted to clarify something about that. Was obviously with astrology, there's rules. Those are like astrology, witchcraft, science. They do things for a very specific reason. And I'm not saying to ignore those. I'm saying when we're talking just very generally about building and opening your own intuition, if, like, for example, I was drawn to witchcraft at a very young age. And so I felt really good to learn, like what I was learning about aligned with me. So
when you say that you are drawn to witchcraft, what do you mean by that?
When I graduated high school, my parents were like, okay, you need to get out, go get a job or go back to school or do something. So I wasn't doing anything. And so I was like, okay, I'll go back to school, just trying to prolong getting a job basically. So I went to it was like a trade school at the time. And instead of buying my books, I went to the psychic store and they had like this huge book on witchcraft. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like I needed to get something to read something to get me through school because school was so boring to me. So I just sat in school and read this book on witchcraft because that was what was interesting to me. And so at the time, that's what completely aligned with me. And so the moral of that story was just move with what feels intuitively correct. And like same with stones, like obviously certain stones are incredibly healing and like follow those follow what people have discovered. Certain stones do certain things. But at the end of the day, for me, I have a bunch of stones and crystals. I just grab what I intuitively feel like I should be grabbing. I don't read up on it and say, oh, this is what I should use. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but getting yourself to a point to where your intuition just knows, boom, I'm grabbing this, or this is what feels right at the time. Having both.
The yin and the yang.
I was really excited about these cards I pulled.
Oh, yes. Tell us about the cards.
Okay, so can you read it?
I free myself from critical thoughts towards my body and my worth.
Okay. So if we are busy being critical on ourselves, that trust is not going to come through. Last one.
I allow the stillness to heal and reveal.
Sounds like something you would say, Dawn.
I know that's right. Peace be still. Just hold on a minute. See what's going on. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Question for when it's time. Oh.
Are we ready? I solicited. Stacy says, I'm here.
Hey, you know what? If we're ready, we got to get the little jingle. Hang on. Now we're ready.
All right, now we're ready. We're ready.
Oh. All right, are we done sharing and caring? Question. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. Will
put your eyes on
Stacy and Jen's endeavor that we're starting take off? Will it be?
Oh, that's Jennifer. Skeleton Cruise Jennifer. Hey, girl.
It is Jennifer. It's Jennifer and Stacy and
when is it?
Third. Hold on. Jennifer.
And then I got a question after this. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not about to mess up the floor. I gotta wait till you get it out.
All right. Jeez. Hold on. I'm shuffling. Jennifer and Stacy. Jennifer and Stacy. Yes. 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 I keep getting the same word. I feel like you're going to, or if you haven't already, I feel like you two might bump heads on about some aspect of it. Like, I feel like you're going to it'll be rolling and moving and something's going to happen and you two will kind of like disagree or bump heads, which is not like shocking. That happens in all business endeavors. I get that. But I feel like you guys might bump heads to the point of going like, forget it. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this, like it'll be something that will trigger like a desire to give up or this isn't working, and push through it. And I feel like there's going to be someone, possibly a more masculine energy, doesn't mean a man, some more masculine energy may come in and like help or maybe offer some sort of, it could be like financial something, or just offer some guidance that will be like, oh yeah, let's do that. Like it'll help it continue down the path a little bit smoother, like some business advice or guidance of some sort. But yes, it looks like this has a lot of potential. For sure.
All right. Okay, Stacy. Now I quit. No. Listen. I know what I'm about to say. And I know it's about to be like, girl, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I'm just trying to have a real conversation right now.
Bring it.
Well, where do I want to start? One, because I have my bounce. I have seen readers or psychics or tarot card readers. But what is the benefit of one actually seeing a psychic? Secondly, before you answer that, Because it's like, if we're supposed to experience this journey of life, well, that journey is the experience. And then also, I hear that things can change because as you read, it's what's happening right now, but there could be a pendulum effect. I don't know why I wanted to use that word so bad. There could be a shift, a wind blow that can completely change the trajectory. Then you have the whole notion that what's supposed to be will be. So it's like, what the
Is it? Absolutely. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I actually started focusing on more paranormal work than like your typical readings, because of what you just said. Because ultimately, we do need to forge our own path. Ultimately, we do need to be able to navigate intuitively ourselves. And yes, anything can change on a dime, for sure. You can change it, and we're 50-50 co-creators, so you can change it or the universe can change it, right?
you better
And
catch
so
it.
you have to be able to align with that. That's both. I agree with everything you said, and I feel like what I try to teach is teach those that are coming into their skill sets to approach it differently than a traditional psychic, from that very typical black and white, give me an answer, or this is the way it, like, I'm going to tell you. I don't think I should tell you. I think I should. I never withhold information, but my guidance has always been, and a lot of psychics, their guidance is more about, again, exactly that, guiding you, not telling you. Because as soon as they tell you, you latch onto that. When I do live readings, I reference TikToks. There's so much there. So many of the younger kids will jump on and be like, am I going to graduate? And I refuse to answer that question, because if I say yes, they might slack off. They may be like, oh, well, you know what? I'm fine. She said I was going to graduate, and I already felt like I was going to graduate, so I'm good. If I say no, imagine what that would do to a young kid, or not even a young kid, any individual, any person that says, am I going to succeed? And I say no. Like, that completely destroys them, because the truth is, we don't know. If you do the work, yes. Yes. I mean, that's the great thing about school. If you do the work, yes, you will graduate. But if I tell you no, that's going to sit in the back of your brain, and you will either completely feel defeated or feel like you're trying to overcome that every time you study. Versus the same thing. If I say, yes, you're going to graduate, trust me, there's enough people that will slack off because they think that my words are everything. So I don't answer questions like that, because it's your choice. It's your destiny.
Catch it. And you got to trust yourself. It's interesting. I was speaking with someone last week after we did our show, and I hadn't spoken with them for a while, but we were doing the moment to really catch up. And ever since I was a little girl, like, I knew I was going to be very wealthy, lived an amazing life, like just do amazing things. I've always claimed that, always professed that. And it's probably geared toward, no, let me stay here, because my brain, the Aries would just be going everywhere. And this individual said to me, they have the capability to read and so forth, said, did somebody tell you that? What? Whoa. And I said, well, and it's interesting. And I think, just like how you said, like, you may be mindful with younger children, because you do have to come with a sound mind, hence that card that you set up, like that peace be still, so that you can hear it for yourself. Because oftentimes you will lean on the understanding of someone else or what somebody else is telling you. But I remember what I felt in the inside. It was just like, well, hold on, wait a minute. And we have the ability to construct our path, to dictate what we want out of life, how we can create, we can speak things into existence. Why do I need somebody else to tell me what's possible in my life?
Exactly.
And I remember how I felt. And that's why it's so important to have a sound mind. That's why it's so important to be connected with yourself, because easily, whatever that seed of slightly the doubt, whatever that look that you had, that's what I felt. Why did you have that look?
Because there was this sense of, you shouldn't have your own internal faith in yourself.
Ooh,
If
you better
someone
catch
from the
it.
outside isn't telling you, if someone who knows better isn't giving you that information, then why do you have that information?
Almost like, who do you think you
Who
are?
do you think you are?
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Do you
Yep.
trust yourself to be so? Okay, this is not about me. This is about you.
I like when you make it about you, though.
Well, I meant the listeners, but yeah, about you too. But yeah, our guests. Toya says, is me and my spouse going to stay together? Are we ever going to get married or should we go our separate ways?
Uh-oh. That's a lot of pressure for me.
Well, Toya, I want to say, how do you feel? And more importantly, what do you want?
Thank you. Let's hear that first. Someone listening might go, well, that's cheating. You tell me first, but I agree. I think that's what matters more than my answer. Toya, what is your... Oh,
what do
Toya's
you want?
done. Toya's done.
And we know the truth by the way that it feels. She said, I'm done.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I was wondering when you said that you're done, is it because that you've delivered an ultimatum or something that just doesn't feel right? Because when you say that you're done, what does that mean? Is something in the relationship not working right? What are you not feeling? Oh, it's been almost 15 years since we've gotten engaged, and then there seems like it's going to be a marriage.
She's probably saying there's never going to be a marriage. So the card that came out of the deck, and again, for those of you guys that know, I don't read cards traditionally, but this is a 5 of Wands, which the energy of this card was just about conflict and frustration. And one person kind of not necessarily controlling, but kind of calling the shots. And the other person is like, how come you get to keep calling all the shots? Like, and it's not a power play as much as it's just like, it's like, I feel like Toya saying, how come you get to keep making these decisions? Why don't I get a say in this now? Oh yeah. So she says, yeah. Okay. So we're on track. Sorry, I skipped over that. So just to make sure I'm on track here. Okay.
Are we ready for the next one or we're still on Toya?
I think Toya answered her own question. I'm just validating where you're at, Toya. I think that I don't like ultimatums because I feel like that's not it's just not honest for anybody. I think, but I think so what that means is having a conversation with him or with them and saying, it's not an ultimatum. It's just where I'm at in my life. I'm not leaving because you won't. I'm saying it feels to me like it's over. And if it's not, then let's talk about how to change where we're at. Because if you ultimatum it, then you're forcing someone into a corner and they'll respond differently. Whereas if that's the response, like I was saying earlier, like when I talk to my husband, I don't say to him, we need to talk. I'm like, here's where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling. And where are you at? What are you feeling? I always make sure I come at it from a very calm place and an honest place that gives him the opportunity to just be honest with me. But when we attack or ultimatum, we don't give the person any opportunity to feel their own feelings. They go in defensive mode. So I would find a good time and just have a nice conversation about what you're feeling and what your choices are. This is and it's not, I'm doing this only if, it's here's where I'm at. I'm ready to move on with my life. Now, if you'd like to do A, B, and C with me, great. Then we start now. If you don't, that's okay. I'm moving on.
And then, here's another thing that I'm wondering. How do you feel about the idea that if it's not a yes, it's a no?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like it's an ultimatum, but I feel like it's like with anything. If it's not a yes, then more than likely it's a no. And if someone can't give you an answer, it's like, I don't want to pressure you, but I always think about, I'm so greedy, I'm about to think about food. When I like a dish, it's like when I like it, you're gonna know. It's just, or
Yes.
shopping for a dress, it's going to be a yes. And when you find that moment, it's a yes. And if it's not a yes, then it's a no. I don't know if you feel like you have to have time to figure out, because I feel like that's a lot of confusion that can come in the way.
And I agree. I think though, Toya, you guys have been together 15 years. Bruce and I have been together 21 years. And the first 15 years of our relationship, I wasn't balanced and cool and calm and like, we have to talk. I would be like, because I didn't really find my balance until 5, 6, 7 years ago. And so with that being said, it's not like Bruce is a great communicator. I had to find out first if Bruce was willing to get on this train of communication and know that his communication was never going to look like mine, but was it enough for me and did it work? And so, you guys have gone 15 years with poor communication. And so depending on where you're at in the relationship, there's nothing wrong with teaching him and saying, this is who I am now, and I'd like to have a conversation about this. And if it's just like never going to happen, then yeah, you move on. If though he says, oh, well, we've never talked about anything before, so what does that look like? Well, that's a fair question. That's a fair question. You guys have never talked about anything before. So, if you're done, you're done. There's nothing wrong with that.
And you have to know exactly what it is that you want. What do you want? Do you want to stay in a situation where you have to keep asking somebody the same question? Are you willing to keep, using your time for that? Okay, so let's definitely go into another question that we have. This comes from Jessica Michaela Adams. She says, will my brother's murder be solved?
Sorry for your loss, Jessica. That's painful. That's a hard one.
I know Jessica from improv. We study improv together, and
for some reason I feel like someone doesn't want this solved. I feel like someone doesn't want this resolved. I feel like I don't want to use the word cover up, but like something's. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jessica? Do you guys already have something in mind when I say that? She's saying, yes, we did. Is that in response to what I just said? Or is that she's talking about your improv. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
So my mom felt it was one of his associates.
Oh, wow. They say it's usually the people that are closest to you. Now, I don't want to put this on his associates, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Was there a scorned lover? Or was he in a relationship with someone that maybe was with someone, or maybe associated? Okay. But I feel like too, like, I don't know if it's exactly this, but it also feels like whoever did it is somehow in a position to cover it up or be protected. Like they know people or something that allows this to just be brushed under the rug. But yeah, Jessica, if you want a deeper read, you can reach out to me and I can send you my rates and we can do something offline.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next. We had a lengthy one here.
Can I post info? Here's my email. I hope this shows up. I'm not as good at this as you are. Did that show up?
There it is.
Oh, look who's a big girl. Look who knows how to use the interweb. Did I spell it right? Yeah.
Miriam the Medium. Okay, the next one is from Nicole Freeman Watson on Facebook. I have a niece that has pretty much cut herself off from the entire family. We know she has mental health problems. Besides letting her know we are thinking about her, is there anything else we can do for her? Or is there even another reason she has distance? We all are very sad.
Hi, Nicole.
Mm, I'm sorry, Nicole. That's so hard. Because it's like, how do you communicate when somebody and telling them what their reality is versus what I guess our reality or versus what everyone else sees as reality as.
Um, she feels like she's working from a place of anger, feeling like, almost feeling like she hasn't, like someone was unfair to her, or something wasn't fair. There's this sense of not, of seeing things from a certain viewpoint, of saying things aren't fair. I do feel her coming around, but I feel like she's feeling something or someone wronged her. Like feels like there's a very specific moment that happened that set this off. And it feels really important that someone hears her, doesn't just say, well, yeah, I see your point, but blah, 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 blah. Like, I feel like she's not feeling heard on a really, really deep level. And yes, that could be some coming from like the struggles with mental health, but I feel like I almost want to say like a valid, everyone's feelings are valid. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like she needs to be heard. And then she needs some time after that. But I don't feel her cutting you off forever. I don't feel that.
How does that sit with you, Nicole? Just because we're talking on the topic of mental health, I was reading a story that was actually published where a LA deputy sheriff was killed by a 29-year-old who, his name is Kevin Salazar, and Governor Gavin Newsom, as well as our district attorney, George Gascon, said that they are not going to move forward with the death penalty because essentially two wrongs don't make a right. Mm. And I find oftentimes when there are crimes committed, certain individuals or sometimes people will plead the fact that there are mental disorders. Mm-hmm. Does that excuse everything? How do you navigate through that? Because again, we're talking about somebody's reality that has been obstructed. And then at the same token, you want to offer a sort of grace. Mm-hmm. But what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point. And when everyone deserves and should be heard, right? And then we have to assess from there. Has this person been heard? Meaning, it's not for us to judge, but if we're having, like, for example, with Nicole and her niece, like, has someone taken a neutral stance and just heard her out and let her be angry and let her cry and not said, oh, that happened because, or, well, they meant to, they love you. They didn't well, they're doing that because they love you, or, they still love you. Like, not saying that stuff. Instead, just hearing them out. And if all of that's been done, and they're getting help, and then there's nothing more anyone can do, because it's their responsibility to continue to get the help to heal on whatever level that is. I mean, at some point, we have to take responsibility for ourselves at some point. And if the mental illness is so severe that they require meds and they're not taking their meds and they're, that's a whole other conversation. If we're talking about mental health, where someone is struggling with depression, and it's just kind of isolating themselves, that's a different conversation. That's where you definitely obviously you want to reach out to professionals. If someone is isolating themselves and disconnecting themselves, you obviously, and I know Nicole knows that. I know Nicole's experienced that before. She just had a fight with her brother.
Oh, you're on that one? Oh.
I'm okay with her break. I just want her to know we love her, like really know. Yes, there's a neutral place and I'm always here for her. Does she know that? Do you know who she feels angered her since she cut us all off? I think that there's so much going on there. Nicole, reach out to me and we can talk offline because there's a lot going on there for sure.
Stacy,
Mm-hmm.
she says, my brother has mental health problems. Will he ever overcome this?
With your brother, I'm feeling, so I need to be careful when I say this. So I want to kind of just say this again. Like, obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I do believe there's different levels of mental illness. And so mental illness, for example, my husband's niece is schizophrenic. So she requires medication. She requires to live in a certain living facility. She actually lives a really full life in a really great facility with friends. But that's that mental health is very different. And that's not a choice that she can make, right? But nowadays we do use the term mental health much more loosely. We use it when we're talking about our, depression. Obviously suicide goes in that same category of above and beyond. But if we're talking about mental health where someone is just but they're struggling with, their whole life, they haven't struggled with it, but they're struggling with it now. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, do we understand the levels? Because at one level, there isn't a choice. Those that struggle with suicide, that's not a choice. That's a genuine struggle and needs support on a much higher level. Someone with schizophrenia, it's not a choice, right? But if we're talking about someone who has, been pretty cool the bulk of their life, but they've just nosedived into this dark place, then we have a different conversation. Is that fair to say, Dawn, what I said?
I think it's to make room for whatever you said. I mean, it sounds as though that when you're speaking about it is that we have a choice to make in our lives. And sometimes whether we want to say, the environment and whether the environment be actually your brain and how the chemical makeup, how do you maneuver or to navigate? And I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be up leveled about the resources that are available. But at the end of the day, we can say it's about choice, but it then results or yields to what's the capacity that we live in to make that choice.
That's what I think I mean. That's what I'm trying to say is when we're talking mental health above and beyond depression, when we're talking about suicide, when we're talking about schizophrenia, like that's above and beyond conversation. That's not choice for these people. But when we're talking about someone who isn't struggling in those areas, but is recently struggling with depression, that's where I'm trying to say we have a choice. So because Stacy says, will he get help? Will he get over this? And that's what prompted me to say all of that, that caveat is some people, aren't capable. It's not their fault. They're not capable of getting help. Okay. So with that, with that being said, Stacy, I feel like your brother. So the reason why I said all of that was because I'm feeling your brother not wanting help. And I don't know if that's coming from a place of someone who is incapable of it. It's something they were born with. This is not their fault, quote unquote. I put that in quotes, meaning they don't have the capacity to make that decision. Or if this is someone who hasn't struggled his whole life and he's just hit a rough patch and is choosing to stay in that rough patch. I'm feeling someone who's choosing to stay in this state. And I hope I clarified what I mean when I say choosing. And so that would be, Stacy, with that being said, that it's up, only you know his history, and you know if when I say he's choosing to stay in this state, if that means, listen, this is someone who doesn't have the mental capacity to be able to make his own choices. Or, I'm saying this is someone who's choosing to stay and isn't looking to change anytime soon. Does that help?
Thank you for sharing, Stacy, and being vulnerable, and to all those who have been vulnerable, whether you lost a loved one or just dealing with a loved one who is battling mental health disorders or illness. And for anyone that did not share, and you may be battling something yourself, our prayers and our good energy goes out to you as well.
And I wanted to add to that how these mental health questions align with the theme of trust, especially since those that are asking about the mental health is in regards to somebody else. So this is where trusting in how the universe works, trusting in your role within your relationship with this person, your role within the family. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's not going to hurt or be difficult. I'm saying when we trust that this path has been laid out for this person, and you have done everything that you can do, it is your job to then let go. I'm not saying disconnect and not talk to them, but I'm saying for you to be able to energetically let go so you don't hold responsibility. So you understand their responsibility in body this life at whatever level that means, and you don't overstep that and decide it's your job, it's your responsibility.
It's not for you to carry.
It's not.
We talked about that in a previous episode of why you have to let go of excess baggage, because if it doesn't serve you, if it doesn't deserve you, holding on to excess baggage is like looking backwards trying to walk forward. Can you imagine how many times you're going to trip, bump your head, perhaps even fall? And yes, we fall down and we get up, but how hard will the fall be? You can hit one area and ignite something else. Heck, we were just talking about that last week. I hit the side of my head and had a whole black eye. I know. I know.
Literally fell.
Literally.
But yeah, you guys, Stacy, you can reach out to me too if you want to get more detailed. What I usually do is have you guys send photos of the people involved, and I can get more specific for you.
Nicole was like, was that for me? LOL. Thanks, ladies, for that reminder. Love this show. Oh, we love you too.
Thank you, Nicole. Love you.
Share the word that we have a show entitled Be Inspired. We're igniting inspiration, motivation, and intuition. Having it all work together.
That's the best.
I'm telling you.
Are you feeling like a little bit of vitamin D?
Well, wait. Well, before we do that, what do you think? Okay, so Miriam, we've been talking about you joining me on a live earlier in the day. Are you still with it?
Yeah.
So like, what time are you thinking? Okay, so what I'm saying is that, I do my vitamin D live, and vitamin D is all about shedding a light on the good and the bad, because if you want to be better, then you have to do better. And it's all designed to get you excited about your life. And since we're talking about inspiration, motivation, intuition, I was wondering, but I was interested to know for the good people, like, when's a good time to do the live?
Well, listen, to be clear, Dawn, you're wanting to do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning show.
Right?
I mean, Dawn used to work for Steve Harvey. She was on the FM dial. So this isn't like a Miriam was going to go live on YouTube show. She's talking like a full show.
It's
And
going to be a conversation like this.
but also your audience was, what was it, 5 a.m.?
Well, they was starting at 4:30 a.m. That's
Yeah.
where I know Miss Toya from, Marcus Savage from, a few other people that have chimed in. But I went spontaneously live today at it was 6.
It was early.
And then I was thinking, I was like, well, do we do 7? Then I was thinking about 10. I don't know. Stacy says, no, I have to work. What is a good time to do a show in the AM? And what
10
if you can listen on the go?
Please, you guys, side with me. Don't make me set a spell on you. Do not make me get up.
Miriam, you cannot say those types of things. You're going to scare our people off. She's not going to put a spell on you.
Oh my God, it's a total joke. But please don't make me get up at 6 a.m. Please. 10.
Jennifer says 10.
Jen's probably
So
because she knows.
you got me after 10 a.m. Okay.
You got me after. Okay, good. Thank you, Toya. Thank you, Toya.
So you want to try to do something tomorrow at 10 a.m. or is that too soon?
Too soon. Is it video and audio? I like the way we're planning everything right now in front of everybody. What are we doing?
I mean, they said you got to keep it real. It could just be audio, but I feel like people would love to see us. But it could just be audio.
All right. Let's. Yes, I'm.
Let it just be the audio for now.
But if it's just audio, that's obviously easier. But will you guys tune in? What do you want to do, Dawn? You want to do it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Yes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I feel like we do a soft launch tomorrow.
Tomorrow. She's just literally telling me now. Like, that's not a joke. She's literally just telling me now. Never.
Stacy says never. I get up at 5:30 to get ready for work. I don't have time in the morning. Jennifer can F.
Remember earlier when I read those two getting in a fight? I was like, hey, maybe that fight's happening right now. Toya, come on.
Toya says video, like we have to be ready. 10 a.m. is not that early. Now, Miriam,
I can do video at 10 a.m. I can do video at 10 a.m. But how funny would it be if I just flipped on the video when I was in bed? Bruce is snoring. He's a bartender. He works nights. He's snoring. I got the dogs. No hair, no makeup. Let's do that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out, guys. But yes, I think it might be time for some vitamin D. Yeah.
All right, hold on. Now I'm not in my... Oh, you guys have to watch. Here we go.
Get your vitamin D right here with me and get excited about your life.
We've been talking about trust. How much do you trust yourself? Do you trust who you are? Where you're going? And more importantly, where you've been? Do you understand the synchronicities of understanding that your location is not your destination? How important it is to speak life over yourself? How important it is to connect yourself with yourself? That's trust. And oftentimes we get distracted by different things, whether it be people, whether it be past decisions, or even perhaps our environment. But one thing that remains true is that you know the truth by the way that it feels. Have you connected with yourself to feel? Now, in order to heal, you have to feel. And sometimes that is going to be uncomfortable. But when I tell you greater is coming, well, it is, because how great can it be when you sit down and you learn from yourself, through yourself, because you are spending time with yourself? That's trust. You don't have to worry about finding yourself in uncomfortable situations or being around people that don't serve you. Because if it doesn't serve you, then it doesn't deserve you. But guess what? You have to walk in confidence and trusting yourself. Are you ready? Are you ready to step into the greatness that is your life? It's all up to you. Long are the days of relying on other people to tell you who you are, where you've been, and where you're going, unless you're getting advice from Miriam. But how important it is to trust yourself and tap into our third pillar of intuition. It's in your gut. It's right here. Trust yourself. You know the truth by the way that it feels.